The front room begins with themes of motherhood, spirituality, and personal struggle intertwined with a tense and eerie atmosphere. The film opens with Belinda, a young woman navigating academic challenges and a tumultuous personal life, as she prepares to become a mother. Her struggles with her precarious teaching job, financial instability, and impending motherhood set the stage for the narrative. She shares her worries with her husband, Norman, who tries to reassure her despite their mutual anxieties. Belinda and Norman's fragile world is disrupted by a call from Norman's estranged stepmother, Solange. She informs Norman of his father's imminent death due to stomach cancer. Despite Norman's reluctance, he is convinced by Belinda to visit his father and stepmother. This reunion, though emotionally charged, opens the door to unresolved tensions and memories of Norman's traumatic childhood under Solange's oppressive and zealous parenting. After Norman's father passes away, Solange seeks reconciliation, claiming she has changed. Her intentions become clear when she offers all her money and assets to Norman and Belinda in exchange for moving in with them. Norman, driven by guilt and financial desperation, reluctantly agrees despite Belinda's unease. Solange's arrival marks the beginning of a series of unsettling events that challenge their relationship and mental stability. As Solange settles into their home, her presence grows invasive. She refuses to stay in the room prepared for her, instead insisting on taking over the nursery intended for the baby. Her domineering personality, strange rituals, and fanatical religious behavior clash with Belinda's academic and rational outlook. Solange exhibits an unnerving connection to the unborn child, claiming divine insights into the baby's gender and name. Her obsession with the family's spiritual and physical well-being creates tension, driving a wedge between Norman and Belinda. Solange's influence deepens as she begins to manipulate the household dynamic. She subtly exerts control over Norman, appealing to his sense of duty and guilt. Meanwhile, Belinda starts experiencing strange phenomena, including vivid nightmares, bouts of sleepwalking, and the feeling that Solange's beliefs might have a supernatural basis. Solange's actions and the unexplained occurrences lead Belinda to question her reality, her role as a mother, and the safety of her child. Norman, overwhelmed by work and the stress of managing Solange's needs, becomes increasingly detached. He downplays Belinda's concerns, leaving her to navigate the growing menace alone. Solange's health deteriorates, and her demands become more taxing, further straining the couple's relationship. The house, once a sanctuary, becomes a battleground of conflicting ideologies and unresolved traumas. The film's climax builds as Belinda uncovers disturbing truths about Solange's past, her fanatical beliefs, and her potential involvement in her father's death. Solange's behavior becomes increasingly erratic, culminating in a chilling confrontation where Belinda must choose between protecting her unborn child and confronting the growing darkness in their home. Norman, torn between his love for Belinda and his sense of obligation to Solange, faces his own breaking point. The front room, we delve deeper into the intricate dynamics between Belinda, Norman, and Solange as the narrative progresses, uncovering layers of tension, psychological horror, and family trauma. Solange's arrival and its consequences. When Solange moves into the home, her presence becomes a stark reminder of Norman's troubled past. Solange, a fervent religious zealot, begins imposing her views on the household, treating her stay not as an invitation but as an opportunity to reshape the family's dynamics. She displaces the unborn baby's nursery with her belongings, symbolically asserting her control over the household. Her arguments are bolstered by claims of divine insight, including an insistence on renaming the baby after Norman's late father, Lawrence. Belinda is unnerved by Solange's eerie ability to predict details about the baby that she had not shared. These interactions blur the line between supernatural foresight and manipulative cunning. Despite her growing discomfort, Belinda tries to keep the peace for Norman's sake. However, Norman, overwhelmed by guilt and financial stress, begins to defer to Solange's wishes, leaving Belinda isolated and increasingly paranoid. A house divided. The front room, meant to be the baby's sanctuary, transforms into a haunting symbol of the family's unraveling. Solange's occupancy of this space causes Belinda to feel displaced and vulnerable. This physical encroachment mirrors Solange's psychological dominance. The house begins to feel oppressive, with subtle but unsettling phenomena, doors creaking open on their own, shadowy figures in the periphery, and unexplained noises heightening the tension. Belinda starts experiencing strange visions and sleepwalking episodes, which she initially attributes to stress and pregnancy. However, as these events escalate, she begins to suspect that Solange's influence extends beyond mere psychological manipulation. Her rational mind, rooted in her academic background, clashes with the creeping dread that Solange's religious fervor might hold a sinister truth. Norman's struggle. Norman's role as a mediator between Belinda and Solange becomes increasingly untenable. Caught between his duty to his wife and his guilt-driven obligation to his stepmother, Norman begins to unravel. His career as a public defender adds to his stress, leaving him with little energy to confront the growing tension at home. Norman's avoidance allows Solange to deepen her hold on the household, further isolating Belinda. Belinda and Norman's once loving relationship deteriorates under the strain. The couple's arguments become more frequent and heated, with Belinda accusing Norman of prioritizing Solange's needs over their own. Norman, in turn, accuses Belinda of being unreasonably hostile. This breakdown in communication leaves Belinda feeling abandoned, her fears dismissed as irrational. The unveiling of Solange's true nature. As Solange's health declines, her demands become increasingly unreasonable. She begins framing her dependence on Norman and Belinda as a divine test of their faith and familial duty. Solange's behavior oscillates between pitiful vulnerability and malevolent control, keeping Belinda and Norman off balance. The cracks in Solange's pious facade begin to show as Belinda discovers inconsistencies in her stories about the past. Belinda's investigation into Solange's background reveals a disturbing pattern of behavior. Solange's religious zealotry masked a history of manipulation and cruelty, particularly toward Norman as a child. Flashbacks to Norman's childhood reveal the psychological abuse he endured under Solange's care, including forced rituals and a denial of basic needs until he adhered to her strict religious expectations. These revelations deepen Belinda's resolve to protect her unborn child from Solange's influence. The turning point. The narrative reaches a turning point when Solange's health crisis forces Belinda to take on the role of her primary caregiver. This responsibility becomes a source of both physical and emotional strain. Solange's behavior grows more erratic and invasive, culminating in a chilling scene where she confronts Belinda about the baby's future. Solange's obsession with the unborn child takes a dark turn as she begins referring to the baby as a divine gift meant to continue her legacy. Belinda's nightmares intensify, blending memories, fears, and Solange's cryptic warnings into a nightmarish tapestry. These dreams seem to foreshadow a tragic inevitability, leaving Belinda questioning her sanity. Meanwhile, Norman, blinded by his own inner turmoil, fails to recognize the depth of Belinda's distress. The aftermath. After Solange's departure, the house retains a heavy, oppressive atmosphere, as though her presence still lingers. Belinda is left to grapple with the psychological toll of the ordeal. Her pregnancy continues to progress, but her earlier joy and anticipation are overshadowed by anxiety. She fears the potential influence Solange's manipulations may have left behind, particularly regarding the baby's identity and future. Norman, too, is deeply affected. Though relieved that Solange is gone, he carries the guilt of not acting sooner to protect Belinda and their unborn child. He reflects on his inability to confront his past and how it allowed Solange to gain such a foothold in their lives. The couple's strained relationship begins a slow process of healing as they work to rebuild trust and establish a sense of normalcy. The arrival of the baby. The film's final act centers on the birth of the baby, a pivotal moment that brings both relief and new challenges. Belinda's labor is depicted as both a physical and emotional ordeal, with echoes of her earlier fears and Solange's ominous declarations. However, the successful delivery of a healthy baby girl marks a turning point in the narrative. Holding their daughter for the first time, Belinda and Norman are overwhelmed by a sense of hope and renewal. They name her Fern, reaffirming their decision to honor their vision for her future despite Solange's attempts to impose her will. The baby's arrival brings a sense of closure, as the couple begins a new chapter free from Solange's shadow. The final scene. The film closes with a quiet, reflective moment. Belinda sits in the front room, now fully transformed into a bright and welcoming nursery. She cradles Fern in her arms, gazing out the window as sunlight filters through the curtains. The room, once a source of fear and conflict, has become a symbol of resilience and new beginnings. Norman joins her, and they share a tender moment as a family. Though their journey has been fraught with challenges, they are united in their commitment to providing a loving and supportive home for their daughter. The film ends on a note of cautious optimism, suggesting that while the scars of the past may never fully fade, they do not define the future. Resolution. The film concludes with a tense and ambiguous resolution. Solange's departure from the house, whether voluntary or forced, leaves an indelible mark on the family. Norman and Belinda, though still together, must navigate the aftermath of their ordeal and rebuild their relationship. The house, once a battleground, becomes a space of healing as the couple prepares for their child's arrival. The final moments of the film leave viewers questioning the nature of faith, the burden of familial obligation, and the sacrifices one must make to protect their loved ones. Belinda's journey from a passive participant to an active defender of her family's future underscores the film's central theme, the power of self-determination in the face of adversity. In a final act of defiance, Belinda takes decisive action to reclaim her home and secure her family's future. The resolution leaves viewers questioning the nature of faith, the burdens of familial duty, and the lengths one will go to protect their loved ones. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.